Welcome to the buy list, episode 1 of our budget list series.
Also known as balling on a budget.
The budget list, if you will, Nate.
Yeah. We're going to teach everybody how to ball out, win some armories on a budget. So
hmm
this week we're going to be talking about a Katsu deck. This is going to be a series that we do. We have some actually really cool ones lined up here in the hopper too. We want to provide not only a budget list, like just generic budget list, but we want to have like a really competitive budget list that you can take to an armory and win.
hmm
But also, like, let's say you're an established player and you want to help grow your community. These decks should be relatively cheap.
Yep.
These are probably cards that you already own. Sleeve it up, keep it with you, even if you're not playing it on the evening. And then that way, if you have a new player, you can introduce them to the game through these lists. They are going to have complete sideboard guides with like breakdowns and like little tidbits to know in matchups and things to look out for. And then hopefully you can either, depending on the time, you can just hand them the the sideboard guide and say, hey, here's a CC deck for you to play. Here's the complete sideboard guide and some notes. Or we want to try and keep the deck tech portion of it like under 10 minutes. They can watch it really quick, get an idea of how the deck functions and what they're supposed to be doing, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Nate. So the episodes are going to break down like this, and you'll see, as we walk through it. But we're going to take a look at the cards in the deck, and then we're going to look at a couple hands, play lines that are kind of make the deck work. And then kind of, since the budget or the buy list is a market podcast, we're going to kind of circle back and go through how do you upgrade yourself? How do you upgrade this deck, right? And give, this week I think we have 4 options for upgrades and then just the current price of that upgrade. So yeah, Nate, let's jump right into it. Okay, Nate, so let's take a look at the deck here and the hero. So Katsu the Wanderer. His hero ability reads, the first time an attack action card you control hits each turn, you may discard a card with cost 0. If you do, search your deck with a card with combo and then banish it. Then shuffle, you may play it this turn. Really strong ability on this hero. And, most of your opponents are going to know that. So you're going to see a lot of cheeky blocking when it comes to him. But, when you can sneak in those attacks, and we'll be showing some of the cards that you can kind of sneak in on hits with to go and grab combo cards, to keep your combos going.
Yeah, that's the primary basis of how we built the deck, is to be this incredibly explosive combo deck that uses combo cards.
Yeah.
Both you're tutoring your deck with Mask and Katsu's ability, hopefully in the same turn, to present 20 plus damage to your opponent and just take all the tempo away and just lock your opponent out for the rest of the game, because Kodachis are such an incredibly strong piece of equipment.
Yep. And first pro tip, and I'm not a pro, but don't forget your Katsu triggers, kids, because it's the first time you hit each turn. So you can't do this retroactively if you hit later, and if you hit and then you keep going down your combo chain and playing cards, you cannot activate it. So keep an eye on that. Yeah, right off the bat, as you mentioned, this is a Katsu deck we're taking a look at. I think ninjas are a great place to start right now, especially Oldhim has gone from the meta, LL'd. So ninjas are kind of, I think they're in a good spot to come back, and they recently got some power upgrades, especially Katsu and Outsiders. So I'm going to walk through the equipment real quick. So nothing flashy here per se, but breaking scales, +1 attack reaction, kind of keeps people honest so they can't just block Xaxes on those on hits. You're obviously running your Kodachis with Katsu, just one of the best weapons in the game. Hardened Cost Trap is kind of what the deck revolves around. Gives you 2 mana, and you'll see when we get into our play lines that 2 mana for Surging Strike is very important. Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, again, keeping a budget. This is like an all-star. I mean, this is probably in sideboards in a lot of ninjas, especially Fi. Let you go tutor a card up when you hit. So very good. And then Snapdragon Scalers, I think the old reliable here, right? Attack, reaction, give, go again for a card one or less. Perfect stuff there.
I think like when we're looking at these budget decks too, it's incredibly important to the headpiece to not be reliant on a skullcap or crown of providence. So like ninja is a clear choice to head to because pouncing
Hmm.
links is so incredibly powerful. In heart and cross strap, as we kind of break it down, you'll see that heart and cross strap is going to pull its weight in gold because this is an incredibly aggressive deck.
Yeah.
So like this deck it isn't trying to take the game long. It is trying to pop off and do a ton of damage in one turn and then finish it out with Kadachis.
Yeah. Yeah, now as we get into the deck, just let me scroll down here a bit. So I'm going to point out some of the majestics here that we can see. Ancestral Empowerment, very budget friendly majestic. These can be had for fairly cheap. Your playset, comes in. That's part of the $50, as Nate had mentioned. This is we're keeping this right at $50 right now. Again, keeping them honest, right? Draw a card +1. If there's any on hits that are, it's a big deal, right? Especially with Katsu's hero ability. Hitting is important. Letting you discard a 0 cost and going tutoring up a card with combo. Very important for this deck as well. Yeah, Take the Tempo is the other one you see here. This is good 2-card hand, if and uh, without Mask of Momentum, your opponents will likely not be respecting your hits as much, right? They might sniff out a Katsu trigger here and there, but without that Mask of Momentum hit, you Take the Tempo can definitely see some play, right, as these chain link hits start stacking up.
And you'll see a lot of like odd cards in the list, and it's mostly to increase the effectiveness of Mask of the Pouncing Lynx because
Mhm.
you're not necessarily with Mask of the Pouncing Lynx going and getting a big like 2 cost that gets pumped up like Assault the Wound. This is mostly built to combo off. That's why you see like the yellow Bee like water. It's a 2 block. It pitches for Kadachis. It's very easy to keep in your deck. But sometimes you're going to be in a situation where you could use the yellow Bee like water to kind of start a new combo line after you've already hit with some other things and maybe drawn some cards out of their hand.
Yep.
Blue bonds. It's a 2 power attack that you can pull with Mask that then lets you go and pull another card out of your deck that just
Hmm.
continues to extend your turn. And then yellow Descendant Gust Waves, 2 power attacks that you can pull out of your deck to and you'll see it here in some of the more powerful combo lines that we're going to try to feature, is that being able to pull that yellow Descendant Gust Wave can really open up what you're able to do with the deck. And then you'll also see the 1 yellow Whelming Gust Wave as that. All right, you have breaking scales and you pull this after a surging strike. This is coming in for 3 and we can pump it to 4 and draw a card. Being able to just have that modality and being able to fish out whatever you need in a given moment of your deck is so incredibly powerful. So you want a lot of variety in what you can pull, and that's why you see one ofs and two ofs of some of these cards,
Hmm.
um, to just be able to pressure your opponent even further.
Yep, exactly. So as I scroll down to the rest of the deck, getting into a little bit of the sideboard here, but really, that we'll leave the sideboard. That is a kind of a flex spot, but we'll leave that for the Fabry link and just some of that tech in there. We'll fill that out there. But to kind of round out the last 3 cards here, all majestics, all affordable. Concealed Blade, just again, we're looking for blue zeros. It's just a solid card overall. Dishonor, again, plays into the deck's strengths, right? Sometimes you just get it and you got it. so 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 Dishonor, going and grabbing that again, it's a target for pouncing links. 0 blue, or it's a blue, so that's good as well. And then stab wound again, kind of the same theory there with the take the tempo, where you won't, your opponents might be letting you hit, just taking the damage, kind of just viewing it as an aggro matchup, and just like, okay, I'll throw back more damage than you. But then stab wound comes down after you've hit a couple times with your Kodachis, and all of a sudden it's a 4 damage card instead of a 2. So quite strong little finisher, sneaky attack there.
Yep. And then for the sideboard here, you're going to see like Humble is mostly just a popper, but also is very good in the Lexi. Infectious Host is very much the same thing. One Oasis Respite in case you have Kanos in your area,
Mhm.
because you don't want to get exploded, because you will get exploded because you only run one AB in the side.
Mhm.
Reinforce the line is very good into Dominate, Yuzuri. Um, then obviously the sync below is going to be good into like the Rangers and the Assassins and potentially Bravo as well. Cyclone Roundhouse Kick is a card that could come out of the list for additional poppers. It's definitely the biggest flex slot, but this is also very good into the decks that want to block you.
Yeah, and I guess when I mentioned the sideboard too, Nate, this is pretty flexible, right? It's a new player won't know their meta, but maybe you know it a little bit better if you're giving this deck out, or if you're a new player, you kind of just have to do some scouting and then kind of adjust on the fly, right? If a lot of people have their pet decks, especially at armories and things like that, and you just have to, and we're coming up to a meta that's pretty unknown at this point, right? There's a ban and restricted coming. As I mentioned, Oldham's LLing. So this, I would say is pretty flexible in general.
Yeah. And before we get into the combo lines here, I want to little weird spot in the episode to drop this, but big thank you to Andrew Rothamel, teammate, amazing person, great friend, helped kind of put this list together. We wanted to have him on. Unfortunately, timing just didn't work out, so we're hopeful to get him back, maybe for a Lexi one,
Yeah, for
or some
sure.
additional like the. I will say, like, not a lot of people know Andrew. He top forward the Pro Tour Baltimore. The
Hmm.
man is a genius. Like,
Yeah,
he
he's
is
good.
a great deck builder, awesome dude. So we really hope that we can have him on for the next one. But he did help out a lot with this one, so wanted to give him a shout out.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Andrew. But yeah, these series are looking. We're looking to have guests on these
Yeah,
series to help us with these decks, and they're hopefully names that you've heard of before.
yeah,
Okay, let's swap over to the first key hand here, Nate. A lot going on here, but that's the way of the ninja.
yep. So, this hand it can either flex kind of. It doesn't really flex down well. It's typically like a 4 card hand. You have your surging, and then you have your descendant, and hopefully, maybe you have a bonds in hand already. If you have a bonds in hand already, you're cooking with gas.
Yep.
But potentially, it will be hard for someone to block out both the surging and descendant if you're breaking heart and
Hmm.
cross strap here to try to push this. So if either one of those hits, ditch a 0 in hand, go get your bonds. So yeah, you lead the surging, go into the descendant and bonds. Typically, like the way the deck wants to function is you want to kind of block a little bit early, get set up for like a big combo turn, and then you have some fodder in your graveyard so you can go surging, descendant, bonds, and your bonds will actually search another bonds. Um, so you can do double, basically a double combo line in the same turn to push an insane amount of damage, as you can see, kind of what we've illustrated here. So you go have the bonds, search the bonds, then you Kadachi, go get.
Yep.
You've gotten your Descendant Gust Wave either off Mask or a Katsu trigger, depending on how your hand lined up. And then you continue to basically push along the lines. And we have it ending on Fluster Fist here, but this could be a dishonor. It could be kind of like it can flex up and down. Maybe it's 100 wins. Maybe it's a spinning wheel kick.
Yep.
Making sure that you're managing your resources to pull the correct card. Um,
Yep.
and it's going to be a 26 damage turn. You're going to present a lot of damage at a lot of awkward breakpoints. So um, it's this is the turn that kind of like turns the game on its head. and then you're trying to kind of play a value game from there and finish it out with Kadachi into your attacks because Kadachis get very annoying very quick after you can push 20 plus damage. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, you're just trying to, and then yeah, you're right. You can go Kodachis and kind of whittle down from here, because you know, Kodachis kind of lock you out at a certain point, right? You get
yep.
to even like under 10, you have to, your opponent has to start thinking about it, right? Okay, how many Kodachis can I let in? So you can start blocking a little bit more, or you can just put the pedal down and try to, if your next hand lines up and you get a good some good damage, you just keep pushing in, making them block more, keeping them on their back foot. But 26 damage turns typically kind of get you out ahead, and then you just have to hope that you get your hands line up to keep going, right?
And this is off of a 4 card hand too. So
Yep.
like this just shatters that ceiling of damage. Now, you are expending a lot of equipment to do this, so that's why you kind of have to like slowly grind the game out from there. But into decks where, like, let's say any of the assassins that are kind of trying to look to slowly fatigue you, you're going to want to not do this with 4 cards. You want to do it with 5 cards. So
Yep.
then looking at potentially setting up a double surging descendant bonds, like you could have a double surging line turn with 5 cards. All you have to do is basically swap out a Kadachi um,
Yep.
for your surging strike with when you pitch your blue. Um, to extend even further. And then like you introduce cards like Be Like Water, where like maybe they try to block out that full line to start. Be Like Water sneaking in can actually start your line back up again as being that
Hmm.
surging strike. So because the Be Like Water coming in for 3 while it's less than the surging strike, it'll proc the Descendant Gust Wave trigger, which is actually right back to surging strike
Yep.
value for one less dollar.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's jump over to our second key hand here, Nate. This one, you know, as I'll say, hand number one was kind of like perfect, you're living the high life. This is, what happens if you have to block some on hits. You're playing Azuri, you have to block six. The bunch, 2 card hands happen, right? You're getting down low in life. So how do you play out of a 2 card hand and present some good damage? So 17 damage, not too bad. But yeah.
Uh, so yeah, like this hand is, I mean, is kind of as straightforward as it gets. Ideally, maybe you keep surging descendant, but like worst case scenario, let's say you're playing another deck that like doesn't block well. Maybe it's like a Briar, or maybe you're playing like a Katsu or a Phi or Azalea. Decks that just don't block very well. You can just lead out your surging, and if they don't block it, you can go get your descendant and then Katsu for the bonds to
Yeah.
basically off of just 2 cards present 17 damage, which is it's insane. It breaks the damage curve of the
Yeah.
game. And is really powerful. And like, but if you have Surging Descendant, you can then go mask for your blue bonds of
Yeah.
ancestry. Just the modality of how
Yeah.
the mask is, how we've built the deck around mask is so that even if you don't hit on the first one, maybe you can go get the hit with the second one and go get a different card.
Yeah.
Um, just to continue extending there. And Whelming Gust Wave is one thing that we haven't highlighted here either. Is it the 0 that draws cards?
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. Really good. The nice thing that I want to mention too, Nate, about this hand is, yeah, it's probably good in like the 25 to 35 range part of the game.
Yeah,
It's not bad, but this hand I can see shining under 20 too. Like under 20 is when you want to see this hand. You block out a little bit, get some value. Maybe you get 6 block, like I mentioned. Then you come back with 17, 23 points of value ish out of your hand, your 4 card hand. Very
yeah,
good. And again, at that point of the game, they might not have armor, so that 5 becomes hard to block, right?
yeah,
So they just can't throw their arms or Crown of Providence in front of it.
yeah,
And so then you get your Katsu trigger if you don't have that bonds in hand already. So it's a strong late game hand as well.
yeah. And we're also highlighting Flusterfist, but like it Dishonor's honestly better. It's just sometimes you don't have it. But Dishonor's insane because then
Yep.
you're potentially turning off their hero ability, forcing them to block. And like you said, once if you as Katsu can take all of the tempo away from your opponent, sub 20 life, it is a very easy game to close out from there.
Yep. For sure. Okay, Nate. So let's jump over to the last segment of the episode, and that's if you do build this deck up for yourself, you want to try out Flesh and Blood. How do you go about upgrading? Right?
Yeah.
It's like let's play the video game. How do you level up here? So
Yep.
first, so these are just suggestions, that we came up with. I think the first one here is obvious. Mask of Momentum, sitting around $80. This was, yeah, so I mean it brings your total of the deck up to like $132, but it changes the dynamic of the deck quite a
Yeah.
bit.
Yep.
With that every third hit being a draw card, possibly, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. It's mostly, I think, because of how the deck is currently built, mostly this is the kind of help fix your like Dromai matchup because I think without Mask it's kind of rough.
Hmm.
Um, and there's probably other decks that you might want to run Mask into, maybe like Bravo. You just want to incentivize them into blocking because you don't want to let them dominate a Crippling Crush or a Starstruck because then you really can't even play the game. Um, and then you look at, all right, what's the next upgrade? So like let's say
Hmm.
you've conquered your armory, you won your promo, you got your store credit, go
Hmm.
cash those in, go get yourself a mask.
Yeah.
Now like all right, now you got a mask, now you really balling out and you're like, all right, I'm liking this Katsu guy. Go
Hmm.
pick yourself up some E-strikes. That's the nice thing about E-strikes too, is that's gonna carry across to any deck you play in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
Um, so you get those. And once you pick up your full set of E-strikes, you're looking right about $100. So you're still sitting right about 230 for the total deck cost.
Yeah.
And I'm confident that you walk into an armory with a deck with mask and E-strikes, you are going to have a good time no matter
Yeah.
what. Like
Yeah.
2-1-3-0, I think it's a very powerful deck, even at the $50 version, to be completely honest.
Yep. Yeah, and then you jump into Art of War. You grab some of those. You can banish a card, draw two cards. Again, you keep hearing that term, right? Drawing cards is good. Ancestral empowerment, all mask of momentum. Drawing cards, always great. Fixes junky hands, which sometimes are needed in Katsu. And then the last one here, Findel's Spring Tunic, the big dog. I think it's just really good, right? It's $190, $200. These prices are, these move around quite a bit, so these are just in the ballpark at this point. But you're looking at $200 for that. Brings you to like $500 for the deck, but you're cooking with gas.
100%.
Yeah, once you get to that point. The one thing to note, I think, Nate, you hit on it a bit. Outside of the mask momentum, though, the second, third, and fourth upgrade can slot
Yep.
right into your next deck.
Yep.
And they will too, for the most part. And Lightning Strike is used not ubiquitously as Tunic, but you'll use it again, right? Same with Art of War, and then Tunic goes in almost everything. like
Yeah.
so there's some positive there too. Um, but yeah, that's how you upgrade this deck. That's how you keep winning those armories and getting those promos and those play mats and such.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that this is an incredible deck to start with. Teaches you a lot about the game. Um, and I think it gives it that cool like RPG feel too, right? Like
Yeah,
you're kind of like you're taking your winnings from the cavern you just went into, and you're taking it up to the shopkeep. You're selling it, and you're getting your upgrade, right? You're
yeah,
upgrading your head, your chest, maybe getting some sweet moves. So really looking forward to like where we go with this series. We've got a lot
hmm,
lined up in the hopper. We're hoping to have some like real like pro players, people like that are absolute experts in their hero, help us
yeah,
build these out,
yeah,
and just serve as like a hopefully like a beacon of building for the community to just
yeah,
have these decks, these deck techs that people can just show to newer players to help them kind of get on ramped into Flesh and Blood because it's a hard game.
yeah.
It's a really hard
Hmm.
game. There's no doubt about it. But like, how do we help eliminate a lot of that learning curve is what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, for sure, Nate. You hit it the nail on the head there. But yeah, I think this is a great place to start with Katsu if you're looking for a deck, something cheap to start with, $50. I think that gets you there, and I think you're winning games at armories with this deck.
Yep.
If you with some practice, again, it's a hard game, so don't be discouraged. Yeah. Last point of advice: don't forget your Katsu triggers, kids. I threw a game real hard in draft from forgetting a Katsu trigger. So just always keep that in mind. There's a lot of triggers in this deck, and once you get the hang of it and they come second nature, you'll be surprising some folks.
100%.
All right, that's gonna do it, Nate.
Awesome. Thanks everybody. Hit subscribe,
Peace.
like it. We got some more in the hopper. Let's go. Peace out.
Peace.